Okay, can you all confirm if you can hear me? Can you all hear me? And can you all see my screen? Nice, good. I had started the session and I didn't know that my mic was muted, but it's fine. Let's start once again. I said that in this session we'll be covering how you craft your story of transformation. A story of transformation is how you share your authentic journey through something that you have gone through. And the purpose of a transformation story is more like impact, to drive impact and to be able to inspire other people and to be able to empower other people who might also be thinking along the same line and who might want to embark on the same journey. So that is the purpose of the story of transformation, or what we call transformation stories. Now, for a transformation story, it's more like in a drama. Many of you watch movies. You might be watching Netflix, you might be watching Nollywood, or you might be watching any other movies, right? So in those movies, usually we have we have stories being told, and in some of those stories, the stories inspire you. The stories sometimes are based on a specific character who rose in the midst of several challenges, and that is exactly what we mean when we talk about transformation story. Now, let's first dive deeper into understanding transformation story itself. When we talk about a story of transformation, we talk about a narrative. We talk about how you tell people and how you share personal change and growth. And for example, in this fellowship, when we talk about transformation story in the context of this fellowship, we might be talking about how then later are you going to talk to people about your journey during this fellowship. You might, for example, be telling people that previously you had real challenges with writing good CVs, but now you have been guided on how to write really good CVs. Now you are able to help other people in writing good CVs, and this has only been possible through the help of this fellowship. And then now this might also inspire people, and they might say, okay, tell us more. And also you have been learning personal goal setting, and you have been given a lot of reflection exercises. So throughout these reflection exercises, you might have overcome some challenges, and you have also been able to reflect on your journey of self-recovery. Now, why did we say we should have transformation stories as part of this fellowship? One, a transformation story matters in the following aspect. One, it inspires others. When you share your authentic journey, you are able to motivate fellow individuals within your community and also within your Build Your Best fellowship in order to embark on their transformative paths. That is an important aspect. Another one is that when you share your story of transformation, it builds connection. You know, when you share a personal story, a story that comes deep from your heart, it then fosters connection with others because it creates a supportive community that thrives on shared experiences. You find that sometimes when you share your story, many people then get to say, okay, oh, I've also gone through the same thing and it impresses me. And then people begin reaching out to you. Let's say if it is a sad story, you find that people then get to help you and they get to support you, right? And then we have, it empowers growth. When you articulate your experience very well, it then solidifies your understanding of those issues. It reinforces personal growth and clarity. And of course, the mission of this fellowship resonates with these principles, and it aims to encourage individuals to share their unique experiences. And throughout this presentation, we will explore how you can craft and effectively share your story of transformation. Because because transformation challenges into powerful narratives that resonate with others. And this is the meaning of transformation stories. Just being able to tell your personal story, how you've changed, how you've grown over time. Recently, recently, some gentleman who is the CEO of Point Investment. He's been sharing his story of how he built his company, how he was previously managing a certain company, but then the company failed, and then he had to go broke, and he had to start his own company. and he was sharing his story. And as he shared his story, you find that people who are really, really motivated. And that is the essence of sharing stories of transformation. Probably, let's say you are in class, you are a student, and you have been struggling, and then you were able to come up, you are able to explore very innovative or creative strategies that then helps you study actively as a student, then defines what we call a story of transformation. Now, Rumi says that the wound is the place where the light enters you. When you encounter challenges, these challenges bring out creativity in you, they bring out aggressiveness in you, they bring out courage in you. And then you get to say, okay, I can do this thing. And those challenges are now what we call the wound. You see? And then the light is more like the success. And then comes your what? Your way. That is what we talk about. That is what we mean by the wound is the place where the light enters you. So make sure that light always enters you. Now, what are the elements of a transformation story? If you are thinking of writing a story of transformation, what are some of the key elements you need to make sure that are properly captured during the transformation story writing? Now, one, make sure that you have a challenge. There must be a challenge. That is what you see in drama. In drama starts with the problem. And then as the drama goes on, you find that solutions are being explored. And that solution becomes what they call a turning point. The turning point is a pivotal moment which shifts the perspective and the direction of your readers in this case, or of the people who are listening to your stories. And then we say that the last element is action, taking proactive steps that leads to meaningful personal growth. So these are three key elements of writing a transformation story. One, there must be a challenge. We say that every transformation begins with a personal challenge. And if you don't have a challenge, it will be very difficult for you to have a story of transformation. First, for a story of transformation to come to life, there must be a challenge. Two, there must be a turning point. There must be a turning point. And lastly, there must be an action. Again, there must be growth. There must be growth within the what? The transformation story. Growth reflects the profound changes that you undergo during the period of transformation. And then we also have outcome. The outcome showcases the final result of transformation. And lastly, the authenticity, which connects the audience on a deeper level. So make sure that is why you see that when you talk about drama, when we talk about speeches, we make sure that speeches must have elements of emotions. And these emotions connect to authenticity. When you do that, it then gets to connect with the audience on a deeper level. Then, another key elements of powerful transformation story, we have being able to identify moments, like being able to recognize pivotal experiences that shaped your journey. And you must be able to illustrate a relatable narrative to engage your audience. Because even in the middle of his speeches, we make sure that we include aspects of storytelling within our stories of transformation. That's why you see somebody will be talking in a speech, and like recently we've been this week and the previous week we are running a competition, and in that competition for primary schools there's an aspect of public speaking, and it's really amazing how these students come up with their speeches. You find that most of their in some of their speeches, even they include relatable stories like this that are meant to really engage their audience, and that then brings the aspect of audience engagement. So these are the key elements of transformation story. Again, as a reminder, you need to know that there are about 8 elements. The first element is a challenge. We say that every story of transformation begins with a challenge. There must be a challenge that you have encountered, and 2, there must be a turning point, a moment that shifts the perspective and direction of the story. And then 3, we must have action. So this means taking proactive steps that leads to meaningful personal growth within the story. And this action now are intended to solve the problem or the challenge that was faced in the first aspect. And then we talk about, what do we talk about again? We talk about growth. We say that there must be a reflection on the changes that we undergo during our story of transformation, and then we must have outcome, which is then the final result of the transformation. After you have taken the action, after you have shown that you have grown, what then is the final result that demonstrates the story of transformation? And then we have authenticity. We have being original, so that you're able to connect with your audience at a deeper level. And we have what we call moments. These are experiences within a story that then shapes your overall journey. And lastly, in your transformation story, you must be able to cite narratives. You must be able to give examples. Um, like for example, this week on for example this week on one of on Wednesday and Thursday. On Wednesday and Thursday, I was uh, I was facilitating some training for some teachers, and the training focused a lot on how schools can transition to online, especially in making sure that they learn cloud storage, they learn basic internet, and then they also learn how to do information verification and fact checking. And during that session, I think on the last day, I was able to help one of the participants step by step, because they already, and their website is live on the search engine. But what was the problem? The problem was that the problem was that this person did not have a domain-based email, despite the fact that he had a domain. So I had to help this participant step by step on how they can connect their domain to a custom email. And we did that, and he was successful, and the participant was very, very happy about that. And that already becomes a story, that already becomes a relatable story within a story of transformation that then connects with audience on a deeper level. And that is the essence of, or an essential element of stories of transformation. Now, we say that, for example, you might be facing fear of public speaking, right? Now, in this case, what is the challenge? Your challenge is that you have a fear of public speaking. What is our goal here? Our goal here is to overcome fear through public speaking, to inspire confidence and connection. Now, here, this person, one, faced a deep-seated fear of public speaking. They really didn't want to stand in front of. They really, they really had big problem with standing in front of audience to be able to communicate their ideas clearly. What did they do? That is the action. What did they do? They joined a supportive public speaking group where you sit down, you talk out your ideas, and number three, what happened? They then developed skills. They gained confidence in communication. That is then the change or the growth that happened in them. What is the result? The result is that this person was able to inspire others to face their fears and share their stories. So this is the outline. You know, when you're writing a story, it's just like essay writing. First, you must come with a plan or outline. What do you want to include in your story of transformation, right? In this case, this is an outline. Now, when you have an outline like this, it's now very easy to write a story because you already have all the elements that then constitutes a successful or a clear story. Then what happens is you just dive deeper into writing details. Next, when you start crafting your story, the first thing is you already have the challenge. The first step will now be to reflect on challenges that you faced during the journey. That is number two. You need to make sure that You explore how you responded and grew from the experiences. And then also, you need to consider the structure. What is going to be the beginning, the middle, and end of the story? And lastly, growth. You need to identify key growth moments and lessons learned even as you write your story of transformation. Very, very important. For example, in that case, the person faced the challenge of fear of public speaking. They responded and they grew from the experiences. One, by joining a public speaking group where probably they had meetings and they were able to speak for themselves. And then now you put your plan and outline. How are you going to begin writing your story? What relatable stories are you going to bring in the middle of your story, even as you draft? And key moments of growth where you have now established an impact. Now, when you structure your story, make sure that, of course, the structure starts with the problem, which is the challenge that initiated your transformation journey, and then you describe the process or the actions that you took to address the issue, and then the result. You highlight the positive outcomes from your story of transformation. Let's say that probably you've been facing a challenge with starting a business because of fear of risks. Some people, they have money, but they don't want to start a small business. Why? Because they fear that they will lose their business in the process. And then if you are able to gain the confidence, that becomes already a challenge. But then if you say, okay, let me do something, and then you start a business anyway, and then you get to learn the challenges and the lessons you learned during the journey. That becomes inspiration. There are some tips that we need to follow if we are writing our stories of transformation. Very important tips. And one of those tips is what we call one of those tips in crafting your stories of transformation is something called being clear and concise. Make sure that even as you write your story, you have to strive for clarity, because in storytelling you have to be very clear. Make sure you use precise language to convey your transformation. Use simple English. Don't use very complex English. Also, make sure that you make an emotional connection. Engage your audience by sharing genuine emotions and experiences that resonate with their own journeys. Make the audience sad, make them happy, make them smile even as they read their story. Much as you may not see them, but they will be inspired by your story writing skills. Very, very important. And of course, you have to outline key points. You have to drop a short outline of your story's key moments to organize thought and structure. We say that, I mentioned that at the beginning. I said make sure that you have a plan or outline before you start drafting your story of transformation, because the outline then helps you organize your thoughts and structure your narrative, and that then brings out an excellent story. The next thing is, in crafting your transformation story, let's assume that now your transformation story has been drafted. Then you decide which medium of communication are you going to choose to communicate your story of transformation. Are you going to share your transformation on Facebook, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, on LinkedIn, or on medium.com? Where are you going to share your story of transformation? You have to make a decision about the same. Make a decision and decide where your story of transformation will be shared. This is key element of sharing your story of transformation. Next, tailoring your audience. You have to make sure that you adjust your narrative to fit audience expectation and interest. For example, the content you write for educated people will be different from the one for people who are not educated. This is very key. Because when you select the official or the right medium, It then enhances engagement and ensures that your message resonates with the audience. Next, tailoring your audience. It helps adopt your story to fit the audience interests and needs, can significantly increase its impact and relatability. Three, managing self-doubt. Acknowledging and addressing self-doubt is crucial for developing your story with confidence and authenticity. Manage self-doubt. Don't doubt yourself. Don't say, okay, what will people say if I share my story of transformation? Because when you don't speak, people out there will not know that you are doing amazing things. Like sometimes when we don't post about the work we do, people don't believe that we are doing something, right? Like sometimes I do a lot of things. I do many things, many things I do. But then not everything I share. So sometimes people think, no, I'm not doing a lot, right? But then I am. But just that I don't share my stories. But now, if I am to share my story, I must also ensure that I don't doubt myself. I am very clear. I know I am sharing my. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, nice.
Yes, yes.
Nice. So, yes, you must also tailor based on the audience, your audience on Facebook, audience on WhatsApp, audience on LinkedIn. Tailor the message based on the audience. Now, when your story of transformation, of course, as a recommendation, you must make sure that you you start working on your stories of transformation now. Because why are stories of transformation important? Right now, if you're applying for things like scholarships, fellowships, if you're applying for things like the Chevening Scholarship in the UK, you're applying for several other scholarships, they need to hear your story of transformation. They want to see what have you done? They may say, describe your leadership experience. Uh, Describe a time when you led a team. Even in interviews, in job interviews, they ask for instances where you have to say something about transformation, right? That's why sometimes they ask you about challenges you've encountered and how you've overcome those challenges, right? So these are what we call stories of transformation. And then when you craft your stories of transformation, don't keep your stories of transformation for yourself. Always share your stories of transformation. Share with your network widely. Uh, Widely. This is very important because when you share widely, you then inspire other people. Next, you have to use available resources. Of course, while you draft your stories of transformation, always make sure that you you use you use the stories of transformation very. Now, yes, Santos, you were saying something. Santo, your hand is up. Okay. Now, let me just show you some examples of stories of transformation. This one is a story published. This is a South Sudanese poet. His brand name is MK Kual. His story's title is I Always Owe My Growth to Those 6 Days. And again, you have to be very creative when it comes to headlines. Headlines are really important. You have to be very creative about, don't just say your headline is my transformation story. No. Your headline must be as creative as possible. Like in this case, I always owe my growth to these 6 days. Now, this is story, you will not understand this was a story of transformation, right? But this is a very catchy headline. Now let's read the story. Sincerely, despite a nudge from my Nigerian friend John Chinaka Onyiche, I had no heart for applying to the African Writers Trust Writers in Residency program. The reason? Since my father's health deteriorated in mid 2024, I have made it an obligation to stay by and ease things out for him. But when Frank Juki, a Kenyan friend, shared the link and made clear he too had applied, my stance didn't only wobble but fell, landing flat on his face. As a curator, Frank has featured my poetry in the Suppressed Realities anthology and an essay on South Sudanese literature in the Culture Africa is One, the latter being my first work translated into German. He also nominated me for an interview on Konya Shamorumi's Stories from Young African Poets. As fellow writers, we are bonded by the quiet mutuality of sharing a publisher. Jide Badmas of Ink Inspired Nigeria, who published my chapbook, Song Hathais, and his Ujana. Besides, at the time, we were slated to guest speak at the Umofia Arts and Books Festival. But the reason I wanted to meet Frank surpassed our personal connection. Inspired by the young West Africans' commitment to the growth of literature in their vicinities, I wanted someone who would share in such a dream and help me impress it on the region, and I felt Frank would. If anything, I held a face to face conversation would suffice to forge an alliance symbiotic to our bloc. But when the acceptance email snailed in, I was devastated. My primary motivation had been frustrated for Frank.
Hello, Bida, we can't hear you.
Hey, Bida has left us hanging, huh? Someone tried to call him, really?
Just hold off. I'm trying to find him.
Okay, okay.
Yes, thank you. Hey guys, sorry about that. I dropped. Can you hear me? Can you confirm if you can hear me? Nice. So you can read the story of MK Qual here, and you can read the story of MK Qual in that link, and just have an understanding of what a story of transformation is, and that can then guide you in writing really inspirational stories of transformation. Just follow the guidelines that we have shared, and that should be adequate, especially in helping you. Yes. So now it's time for, let me get for you one more story of transformation, and then I will be able to take questions. Uh, so, any questions so far? Let me look at some of the questions in the chat box. Somebody is saying, I thought we were having finance management. I think you did not follow email communication, Yakwar. Kindly refer to emails for most of the changes that have happened. That should answer your question. Also, check your Google Calendar, very important. That answers your question. And Garang is asking, which medium is the best when sharing a solo transformation? This will really depend on your audience. Remember, we say that first you need to have an understanding of who your audience are, whether there are people who are learned, whether there are people who can read long content, or whether people who can read short content, or whether there are people who like video, or there are people who like text-based content, or there are people who like infographics. So when you know the kind of your audience, then that then helps you to come up with that then helps you to come up with which medium you have to use. That's why sometimes you may write a story of transformation and you may end up segmenting them into the different medium. The same thing is just like in newsrooms. You find that newsrooms, they may have, like, let's take an example of iRadio. iRadio might have text-based articles that they publish on their website, and then they have the same story broadcast as audio during their news, and sometimes they may even have video from the same event. Let's talk about SSBC. The same with the SSBC. SSBC can have content that they publish on their Facebook page. They may have video content that goes to the TV, and they have the same content for radio. That's This is because it is tailored to the specific needs of the audience. So when you have an understanding of your audience, and then you know which platforms are at your disposal, which platforms are you already using, that way you then get to easily write your story of transformation. I hope that answers your question, Garang. And then someone is asking, how can you recognize that? Somebody is asking that, how can someone recognize that they are actually transforming and not just changing temporarily? Yes. So, of course, we say that first, when you do those things like journaling, which you were told in the previous session, you can be able to tell whether you are improving or you are not improving. For example, in terms of certain behavior or even attitudes that you are used to, but then slowly you have decided to abolish such attitudes. When you see that these things begin happening, if you've been having people who have not been adding a lot of value in your life, but then slowly you are seeing that you are now adding some really very amazing values, and then when you also realize that in terms of finances, like if you've been able to track, next tomorrow in the session for personal finance management, you will look at how you're supposed to track your expenses. And then when you see that There's a sustainable behavior shift when you see that when you have new habits and new mindsets that have become consistent over time, even when it is hard or inconvenient, then that is a sign that you're already transforming. Another thing is also when you see that there's an inner motivation, when you see that you're not doing the thing just to please others. For example, let's say that you're not doing the assignments where we are giving you just because you have been told to, but you are just doing it because of the inner motivation, because of that drive within you. That way, you should know that also you are already transforming. Another thing also is that when you see already you have been having changes in thinking patterns, you now think differently. Let's say that previously, if you have been thinking that life is hard, today I shared earlier. I shared a message in the WhatsApp group for your skill boost, and it's about the Brock mindset. Let me just read for you that text. The person was saying, Elvis was saying that the Brock mindset is louder than poverty itself. For example, he was asking, have you ever met someone who is broke but confident about why they are broke? They will explain to you like it is science, it's the government, it's the economy, it is my boss, it is because I didn't go to university. No, you are broke because your mindset is expensive and your habits are cheap. Most people are not poor because they lack opportunity. They are poor because they argue with opportunity. They will see someone doing well online and say that's fake. They will see someone selling a course and they will say that is a scam. They will see someone building a business and they will say that person is lucky. That is the Brock mindset. Always loud, always opinionated, never building. You know what the rich do differently? They observe silently and execute privately. They are too busy learning, testing, failing, and adjusting to sit around mocking what they don't understand. You cannot build wealth with a defensive attitude. You cannot learn from someone you have already judged. And you can't grow while blaming everything outside you. The moment you switch from complaining to creating, your income starts to change. Not because life suddenly becomes fair, but because you have finally stopped wasting time fighting reality. So, no, you're not stuck. You're just surrounded by people who normalize excuses. Silence the noise, learn, build, sell, repeat. That's the keyword to being broke. And the broke mindset that keeps you there. So, when you see yourself shifting, when you see that your behavior, your thinking patterns have changed, in a way that you now start responding to things differently, and those things used to trigger you, or when you see that you are already having more clarity, you are very calm, you are very mature, that shows that you are transforming. Another thing is also that when you notice that you are now having what you call identity level change, it's not just what you do differently, it's now who you are becoming. You begin to see yourself in a new and more aligned way, like like for example, I've stayed for several years without without going to church. I told you that story last time. But then this year, when I ended the year last year, I told myself this year I should be going to church at least every Sunday, right? And and I've been consistent with that. And I just think that it has helped me transform some way, in a way that I feel a bit of different because of the different things I've learned through the different sermons. Another thing also is that for you to see that you are transforming, you should be able to see a relapse that feels unnatural. For example, when you try to go to your old way, you no longer feel comfortable. You don't feel comfortable anymore when you try to go back to the old way of doing things. When you notice that, that means that you are also what? Changing. And then when others notice, sometimes you begin to see that you are transforming when others tell you, oh, guy, you have changed. You have changed. You know, you used to do XYZ, but now you do ABC. When you receive such kind of feedback, you know that you have transformed. That is not a temporary change. You have truly what? Transformed. So that is another way you can know that you are transforming. And then also when you try to adapt instead of escape. When you see that in tough moments you face challenges with new tools instead of avoiding tactics, that means that you're already transforming. Generally, when we talk about transformation, transformation roots itself very deep. It is very slow process. Sometimes it's very quiet. It's very quiet. It is quieter than sudden change, but it lasts. It shifts how you live, not just what you do. So you have to make sure that uh, when you see those elements that I have explained, then you get to know that you are transforming. Brenda, you try to share the attendance list. I want to end this session very early. I want to run away. You share the attendance. And then any other questions? Yes, I see there's a comment from Guy. Sometimes at lowest moments of one's life, if someone's transformation story involves trauma, how can they tell it without re-triggering it, without re-triggering themselves? No, like if for example, when you have transformed, remember, I think if you followed my explanation clearly, I said that when you relapse, it feels unnatural. But then when you relapse and it feels natural, that means you have not transformed. There's no way you can tell me that you have transformed, and again you feel that maybe if you had trauma and then it's going to re-trigger it, then you have not transformed in that case. If you have transformed, you have become a new person, and the old is old. It has no relationship with your present. So if for example, again, that brings in the elements of self-doubt. You see, we say that when you are talking, when you want to tell your story of transformation, you really need to have, you don't need to have self-doubt. When you have self-doubt, that means you have not transformed. And that means you have homework to do. So please, that is very clear. If you must tell a transformation story and you feel it's going to re-trigger any, let's say, aspects of trauma in you, then you have not transformed. That is point blank. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Seems like there are no other questions. If there are no questions, kindly fill the attendance. Fill the attendance. The attendance has been shared in the WhatsApp group. And now we have engaged with you for like 3 months now. I want to give you an assignment, and the assignment is just to write a story of how the fellowship has changed the way you do one or two things. You only select one important thing that has stood out for you during this fellowship, one thing that has helped you change the way you do your things, and then write your story of transformation. Write your story of transformation, publish your story on medium.com. Make sure that your story has a clear title, it has a subtitle, and it has a subtitle, and also it must have very organized paragraphs and then a featured image. Very clear story of transformation, of how the fellowship, just pick one thing, only one thing that has stood out for you throughout this fellowship, one thing that has helped you solve one problem that you have faced, and then publish the story on medium.com. Then you submit the link via Google Classroom. And yes, that is very important. And then from there, I will be able to go through this. So let me show you how you're supposed to write. This is a story of Betty, published by Betty, and I think Betty has published a couple of articles now. She has published like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. She has published about 11 articles. Yeah, which is a good thing. I really encourage you guys to be able to write. Some of these things don't do just because you are part of this fellowship and stuff like that. You have to do these things. They can help you a lot in your career, and so you can use some of these things as references, especially for people like Betty, or even all of us, because you may use it as a reference. So first, I'm saying that you must have a clear title like this when publishing your stories on medium.com, and then two, you must have a subtitle like this. And then from there, you begin your first paragraph, you put your featured image, you put another image. And then these are what we call the tags. These tags, they're not supposed to be written hashtags the way you guys are writing in your articles. These hashtags are written somewhere when you're publishing the story. The last step, they will ask you to put the topics. And then later on, they will appear down here like this. You see, that is how you're supposed to publish on medium.com. So you draft for me your transformation story like that, and then you publish on medium.com. And then the second thing is you need to record for me a video, a video of only 1 to 2 minutes that then summarizes the same story you wrote about. The same story you wrote about, you publish it, you record the video using your phone, and then upload your video on Google Classroom. Or if the video is too huge, but again, please make the video 1 minute. Don't make the video big. If the video is big, what you do is you go to create a YouTube channel using your Gmail, and then publish the video as a private video on YouTube. Publish the video as a private video on YouTube, not public video. And then you share for us the link of the published video on YouTube, and then you put for us the link on Google Classroom. So this assignment has two aspects. One, the aspect where you're supposed to draft the story, publish it on Medium. Two, summarize the story in 2 minutes, and then tell the story using a video recording, and then you submit the assignment. And with that, that brings us to the end of our session for today. And lastly, I want to talk some announcements about the graduation. Of course, tomorrow I will repeat the same, but then this is one thing you need to know. Remember that this fellowship is a very serious fellowship, and we want to make sure that really people benefit from it, because that's why you see in the beginning people were more than 60, and we kept kicking people out because of non-compliance, right? So we have to make sure that you are compliant. Now, if you did not do assignments, make sure that you do all the assignments. For example, let me start here. Let me see the people who are on this call. I have Guy here. Let me check the name for Guy. I see Guy. Yes, Guy, you have done all your assignments, which is a good thing. Let me see Talagu Robin. You have not done the assignment for email. You have not done the assignment for networking. You have not done the assignment for personal goal development. You have not done the assignment for this introduction. So you have to work on that. And then the next person in my list is Baka Joseph. Let me see, Baka Joseph. Baka Joseph. Yes, Baka, good. You have done all your assignments. Yeah, this is really good. So 2 people so far have done all the assignments. And then Garang. Let me see, Garang. Garang, your assignment for networking techniques is not there. Yes, and then your assignment for cover letter and CV is not there. So Garang, you need to work on these two assignments and follow up with the mentors for those two assignments. So that is very important. And then the next person in my list is Majok. Gua Majok. Let me see Majok. Majok. Yes, Majok, you have done all your assignments. Yeah, this is good. It's a good thing. And then we have Kajokore Santos. Santos. Good. Yeah, Santos, you have done all your assignments. It's a good thing. I think now we have how many people who have done all the assignments? We had Guy, we had Baka, we had Majok, we have Santos, 4 people. The next in my list is Betty. Let me see Betty. Betty, yesterday I wrote to you. You did not do one of my assignments. Betty. Yes, Betty. Yes, Betty, you did not submit the assignment for Medium, for the article for medium.com. You did not submit that assignment. So Betty, please go and submit the assignment. And once you submit, you let me know. And then we have Callisto back. I see Callisto. Callisto, you have too many assignments not done. Callisto, too many. You need to go and check and make sure that you are able to do those things. Because we want to print the certificates, but then we are going to print certificates only for people who have finished the assignments. So what we are going to do is we are going to, I think we might not have the graduation on the 18th. We might instead have the graduation on 25th, because we want to give you another extra 1 week, especially for those who have not finished their assignments, to be able to finish all the assignments and submit them, and then they are graded. And then Lexis, let me see Lexis. Lexis, your assignment for networking techniques is not done. Yeah, so Lexis, you have 1 missing assignment. The rule is 100% assignment completion. So make sure that that is done. Next in my list, I have, who do I have in my list next? Mien, you have too many assignments, not done. And then Marley Mac, let me see for Marley. Marley, you have too many assignments missing. Emotional intelligence is not there. Networking techniques is not there. Professional profile is not there. Core values is not there. Personal development is not there. You have too many assignments that are not done. You have to try your best to sit down and do those assignments. We have Nyakwar Ball. Nyakwar, you have a couple of assignments that are not done. Yeah, I think when we have, I think less than 10 people have done all assignments. From people who are not here, we have Morbe. Morbe is missing one for networking techniques. He has not done that. And then Akir Guy, has done all her assignments also. She is missing this one for Medium article, so she needs to submit that. So please, if you have not done that, you have to do that. That should be my comments on that. And then the graduation is going to be in person, where we met last time in Mazoli in Buluk. So we have to make sure that is done. And Brenda, over to you.